I was all ready to be on board with this episode when you start off with him seemingly ending back up in Japan, everything's looking okay, you see a very hungry Rim wandering the streets, and I'm like, okay, now we're back in his world, that's gonna cause a ruckus, and then you, once again, isekai again, and it seems like we're in some form of sci-fi fantasy. We have that typical isekai formula of you're the messiah, you're gonna defeat the demon lord. Oh, there's this rumor that if you defeat them, there's a path to Japan. I assume that's your holy place. To then you end back up with Aunt A, who's large and in charge these days. Even though he's kind of getting walked over by humans, they now have a pretty healthy work cycle, 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 2 days off. They even have goddamn insurance, but the humans are so spoiled that they think that's horrible. And the fact that he ends up joining the Demon Lord because they treat him better than apparently this cultist that are trying to defeat the Demon Lord army. This episode felt like 5 different light novels of a traditional isekai series, but because Dungeon of Black Company doesn't waste our time, it doesn't feel like it's padded or dragged out. It's just like, yeah, this show's gonna show us like 15 seasons worth of normal isekai content, but because it's not dragging its feet, we're gonna be able to get through it and in a timely manner and feel like it's actually a fleshed out story rather than one novel dragged out over 12 episodes and have it not really have much happening over the course of it. I mean, we get introduced to new characters like Ranga, who is just very aware of what it is he's doing, and I love the idea that our boy goes in for a grab, realizes who Ranga is, and just the idea that, well, the prophecy said this, and since he was the only one with the ability to do so, he just really played up the part, and the fact that Ranga's like obsessed with the idea of making our boy Kinji fall for him. I just think this show's just fantastic. And the fact that you can just have characters so casually say, can I punch this one? It's like, yes, please do. The funniest joke to me in this entire episode was definitely when that one human came barging in, acting like they were being beat, tortured, all this type of horrible stuff. Just like perfect timing. I'm currently playing Wolfenstein: The New Order. There you actually see horrible worker conditions as they're literally slaves and things like that. Here they have health insurance and 2 days off and only 8 hours in a day, and this person's complaining like they're getting whipped and beaten, and then here comes Rim biting his ass trying to strangle him as our boy Kinji cleans up the place and says, hey, if you disobey, you're gonna get your ass beat. If you do good, you'll get bonuses, and some of the humans will end up being able to oversee other humans, basically making management positions. This shit's hilarious. I wasn't really believing in our boy Kinji, I gotta admit, that he would be able to create a good work condition, and I feel like had he not left like a few hundred years in the future, he probably wouldn't have. I feel like we would have ended up in a very similar situation, Planet of the Apes, god damn it, look at how far he run the world dry. But given the fact that he disappeared for so long and the influence he put on these worker ants, it kind of makes sense that they made something that's considered healthy in the modern world. Sure, some people argue 3 days off for, a work week, but still, like, it's definitely miles above where the original company took it, and honestly, I just didn't see anything in this episode coming. The whole idea of going back to his world, I think, is like the only thing that you could probably predict initially, because the same portal last week, and just kind of makes sense, right? He'd go back to his world. Would he stay there? Probably not. How much story is there really left to tell? It feels more of an end goal. But the idea of like a sci-fi anomaly, almost like he got summoned to a new world, I was kind of like teeter-tottering. Was he still a part of the same world? Maybe just in like a different time period, maybe far off in the future. And then to just see the transition of everything and just how, even though I don't get to see my boy Wanabe, I mean, from characters like Ranga to an old man pulling a handgun saying you're gonna help us one way or another. The way it blended so many different isekai tropes and deconstructed them, took a sledgehammer, smashed them to pieces, threw it in the gutter and said, don't worry, we're Dungeon of Black Company, we're gonna do our own thing here. And I think what helps is Kinji's self-aware humor, because he's aware of what isekais are. So when he can say casual remarks like, oh, it was all a dream trope, thank God, and he's so happy. Or him clearly recognizing that, goddamn, I got roped into the save the world isekai trope. It's pretty fantastic. I'm glad Rim was a part of this though, because if I lost all the characters that Kinji's kind of grown accustomed to over these episodes, it would have been very disappointing. So to have Rim just kind of tag along and knowing that once her hunger is kind of rumbling and no food is in sight, someone's getting their ass ate, and not in the fun way. This show is absolutely just batshit wild. And I mean, really, I thought up until even say, remove last week's episode and this one, it really does feel like this show has tackled more content than most isekai series. And it's weird because I never thought this show would go this far in terms of a narrative, because it's so funny, so outlandish, and it has a good asshole main character that you can kind of just run with that gimmick. But the fact that they actually have such an overarching plot and just variety of situations and settings, and the fact that we can see worker Aunt A grow up to be a boss even if he is a little frazzled, I mean, it's kind of fantastic. To see just the end of the episode, him come marching back in saying, yeah, I actually decided to side with the demon side because they give me health insurance, basically, and I'm just gonna gain far more than if I'm just chilling with you. This show is amazing, and I definitely would go as far to say might be my personal favorite Dungeon of Black Company episode. Even though it didn't make me laugh as much as maybe prior episodes, it was still rather humorous, don't get me wrong. The fact that it felt like we just covered so much content, I think this year in particular with isekais have really opened my eyes with how far an anime or a light novel author can really drag their content. Where Dungeon of Black Company's like, hey, when I made this idea, I had 30 novels worth of ideas, which might translate to 30 episodes worth of ideas, but we're not going to beat around the bush. It's just pretty fantastic. I like the lightning fast pacing of this series while still giving time to look at a character like Kinji grow with his companions. I mean, it was rather brief and it wasn't explicitly stated, but when he was relieved to be back home, he was thinking about his companions and he started to miss them, but you know, he being Kinji is just going to brush it aside because he's the big man, but he did miss them, right? And it's nice to see how there's constantly new twists and turns, and really, for the amount of twists and turns we've already seen in this show, I mean, we should be counting our blessings. I mean, this is more than a few seasons of most isekai anime, and I really like that. Maybe to some people that's a little too much, maybe they like it a bit more slow, but as someone who's seen his fair share of isekais, it's nice to have more shows, especially in the comedy department and kind of almost parody department, do more with their narrative than something strictly serious narrative that you typically see in the generic isekai department. Fantastic, and just really a perfect episode that I didn't see coming. I'm very excited to see the relationship with Ranga continue to grow. Just so good, just so wild, and just honestly kind of gave me some Megami explosion level of absurdity, and I'm really excited for more. Of course, as always, let me know what you're feeling down below. What do you think of the variety of new settings and similar settings, but now kind of destroyed Planet of the Apes style? What do you hope to see with future episodes now that we can have sci-fi apparently? Anything's possible, so let me know what you want to see down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.